This is my KitchenAid trash compactor. It's like 12 years old or something like that, and recently gave us some motor problems, which caused me to tear it apart. And funny enough, the replacement part that I had gotten was broken, but I'll talk about that in just one second. Anyway, so most compactors on the market are the same. They just have a couple little features. They're almost all like literally the same. Just the outsides might be rebranded to Frigidaire, or this one's a KitchenAid, or Whirlpool, or any number of brands. When I was looking at parts, it seemed like there were like 50 different compactors that were all the same parts. So anyway, I have, obviously this is all pulled out and whatnot, but I'll start very simply here and just take the drawer out. So that's nice and simple. You just lift up and pull that thing out. And I'm going to set this aside for right now. And in order to test it, this is what mine looks like. In order to test it, that's the off thing. You can see we've had it for a while and it's kind of worn out the switches. One thing I never knew before, actually, and I only discovered it when I was working on this, is that this comes out to act as a safety switch. So if you've got a youngin that likes to smash the trash, you can just take that out and they can't do anything, and then you put it back in when you want to turn it on. In order to make this work without the door in, I've taped over a switch right there, and then I've also taped over, let me get a flashlight. I've taped over another switch right there, and those are safety switches so that it knows that the drawer is in, so that you don't end up smashing people or things. Anyhow, like any trash compactor is going to be after 12 years, it's a little gross in here, but interesting to see. Anyway, so you can see these two screws on either side, and if you look up, kind of working a flashlight here, there is the actual compactor, the thing that comes down and smashes the trash. So I am going to trigger this unit. Here we go. And actually what I'm going to do, let's see, we'll trigger it like this. Pretty noisy. Having scenes of Han, Leia, and Luke in the compactor. That's justifiable. And that's just kind of how that part of it works, which I guess I've always kind of known, but never really saw it in action. I also have, there's some guards that go right here for normal use that I've removed for servicing it. Anyway, let's go around the back and see what's happening when we do this. So they're not all that complicated a device. This is the motor, and the motor has all the switching mechanisms built into it, really. It has the reversing mechanism into it. This is what was wrong with mine. I don't know if the shaft was seized up or something. That's probably what it sounded like. It kind of went when you tried to go, like something was frozen. I ordered a new replacement part, and the replacement motor I wired in, and they still got the which caused me to tear the whole darn thing apart and spend hours diagnosing stuff. Turned out the motor was bad. The shaft didn't spin freely by hand. It was quite stiff. And ultimately, while they aren't in the habit of swapping out these parts when they're brand new, I complained enough that they ended up swapping it out for me, and well, I got the new one back and put it in, and immediately my life was better. So anyhow, I'm going to trigger this right now, and we'll see what happens just at the motor side. You can see when it hits the load, it automatically reverses. And that mechanism all happens within the motor. There's a little centrifugal mechanism right there. Okay, so now I want to see one more thing that's pretty interesting on these things. And that is the underside. So I'm going to kill the power on our switch here and tip it up. So I don't really want to actuate the unit with this tipped up like this. It's not made to be in that orientation, and I don't want anything to come loose. But anyway, you can see on the bottom, here we have the motor, which just has this little pinion on it, pinion gear. And that just drives this chain, which turns those screws. Pretty simple unit, actually. And they're quite expensive. We looked at buying a replacement, and it looked like it was going to be $800 to $900 to replace something similar on this. The motor ended up being $150, and everything else is largely mechanical on it. There are a few limit switches, which you can kind of diagnose if it's not doing anything, which I'd recommend just fixing your compactor rather than replacing it if something's not going right. This motor is the main thing, it seems to me, and swapping that out was quite simple. There's 4 screws, you can see them right there. And then there were these wires that you have to hook up. My old one didn't use these terminals, but with the new motor, they give you these terminals. So you kind of just cut the old terminals off and crimp these on, get a good pair of crimpers. But beyond that, it's pretty simple. And if you don't get a broken part from the parts repair place, then everything goes pretty simply. So hope that helps you understand how this thing works. Take care.